In light of one of the recent interviews I conducted, there was some comments that were made that you feel that you don't agree with so much, and I was wondering maybe if you could touch on some of those things and elaborate on them for us.
Yeah, I mean, you did an interview with Ari Taub from Hard Knocks, and he made some comments about wrestling and how Alberta fighters, you know, basically they should take a year off or a year and a half and just focus on wrestling, and that would solve the problem because wrestling is weak for MMA fighters in Alberta. And, you know, I just take exception to that because, one, I don't think it's true. Made comments about Nick Ring and, you know, that he got taken down in his UFC fight. You're fighting the best guys in the world. If you get taken down, it doesn't matter, and then he scored a point. He attacked him with submissions. He defended many takedowns.
That's right.
You know, so it's a give and take game. You're playing, it's a chess match. Like I said, who has the timing and who does what.
Absolutely.
So to say it's about guys wrestling or it's a guy striking, that's not necessarily true. It's a complete game that you have to have. And so it doesn't matter what level you're at. I mean, you could say, well, Brock Lesnar is a world-class wrestler, right? So is Diego Sanchez, so is Finch, so is all these guys, but they're not the champions. They got beat by strikers who know how to adapt and use some wrestling. So, well, then they should all can't quit training and quit doing what they're doing and focus on their striking.
Something else?
There's always something to work on. That's why it's MMA. That's why it's brilliant.
Okay.
It's not just wrestling. So for Ari Taub to make a comment about, well, a guy should work on wrestling, who's going to teach him that? Is Ari Taub going to teach all the MMA guys wrestling? He's never fought MMA. He's never coached anyone in MMA. So what does he know about MMA? Nothing. He knows about wrestling. Who cares about wrestling? Wrestling is simple. There's only a few things you got to worry about. You get good at those things, you will beat all the wrestlers. But their timing is so good because of what they do, that's the hard part. Now, can they outstrike you? No. Can they out-jiu you? No. So they got to work on those things too. That's the strategy. Who implements what? So for Ari Taub to make those comments, it makes me it blows my mind that a guy who claims to be as intelligent as he is would make a comment so narrow-minded and so incomplete. So he's a wrestler who's in the MMA game to promote wrestling. Good for him. I'm not. I'm an MMA guy who's in to promote MMA. And I love wrestling. I love boxing. But how does that adapt to your MMA? Not how do you become a better wrestler and how do you become a better boxer? It's how do you become a wrestler for MMA? How do you become a boxer for MMA? I lose my mind when I see Muay Thai guys showing MMA fighters Muay Thai. Or boxers showing them. No, it's not boxing, it's not Muay Thai. It's MMA with a twist for that, right? And that's
I can tell that you're very passionate and that you're very heated about this.
After a while, you start to you be politically correct for so many years, and when you know you're right, you're right. When you're wrong, you're wrong. And
it gets frustrating sometimes when people play devil's advocate, right?
And then he makes a comment like that. Here's the bottom line: he went to the Olympics in wrestling. Did he win? No, he didn't win. So then he's got holes in his game. So he should, you know, unless you're undefeated, never been beaten in wrestling, then you can't really make a comment that, well, this works every time. Yeah, we got strategies and we try and implement them. Doesn't mean it's going to work every time because the guy moves different. He does this, he does that. So can you compete at that level? Yeah, you're competing. You're in the game. But people get stuff. You get taken down 10 times, so what? If you stop him 20, he only got 10, and then you beat him up, you're still winning the fight. So it's very frustrating that way when I hear things like that. People just want to make comments. Bottom line, if Ari Taub and I fought, I've never wrestled a day in my life anywhere other than for MMA. He would not take me down. I would take him down, I'm sure of it. And an MMA fight, which is what I do as MMA, I don't wrestle. So I'm not going to have a wrestling match with him. But even in a wrestling match, I doubt he could beat me. Right? I just doubt it because I think my wrestling is pretty strong now because of what I've done for MMA.
Sure.
But if it was an MMA fight, he wouldn't last one round with me.
So you're saying that in an MMA fight, Ari Taub wouldn't stand a chance against Lee Main?
Absolutely not.
So is that something that you would be potentially looking at matching?
I get tired of the talk. What he's doing for hyping his show, I don't know what. All I know is I've been there. And as a coach, it's a lot easier sitting on the sideline telling guys what they should do when you've never been in there. That doesn't mean you can't be a great coach and have never fought, because there's lots of great coaches that never fought, but you have to learn to adapt the game and make it work. And I don't see that vision from him if he's making the comments he's making about how guys should just wrestle and just do that. Because bottom line is, he's never fought, he's never coached anyone. He's never shown that his methods of coaching wrestling have made anyone better. I've never seen anyone he coached get to the UFC. So where's his guys? If he's this expert in wrestling, where's his guys that are in the UFC that are out wrestling people, winning the fights because of wrestling? Because wrestling doesn't win you fights in MMA. It's only a small part of it. Take a guy down all you want. You never do it. You got to beat him up. You got to tap him out. You got to do something. So where is it? So show me. Step in the cage with me and prove to me that your wrestling can beat me.
Are you calling out Ari Taub right now?
Well, he's the one that made the comments about how good his wrestling is and how good it is. I just don't see it.
So I know that you've advocated in the past that you were willing to put up a large amount of money as prize money for a promoter versus
because
promoter.
I get tired of promoters talking shit about fighters and what people do, what they should do and shouldn't do. They've never been in there. Okay. They're on the promoting side, the business side. Good for you, do that. But don't be bashing on these guys who are busting their ass every day and learning. No, none of the Nick Ring's not saying, "Oh, my wrestling is good enough, I don't need to work on it." It's something he's always working on. He's worked on it for years. So he fought a good wrestler. What'd the other guy do? Didn't defend the leg kicks. Didn't defend the jiu-jitsu very well. Was in trouble all the time. So it's a fight. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
I know that. I've been knocked out before. I know how to keep my hands up, but yet I've been knocked out before. So
always constantly evolving. Always have to be constantly improving.
And I guess the point I make is, if you're going to make comments that are so off the thing, then have something to back it up. And when you got nothing to back it up, then maybe you should be a little more politically correct and do something that's more supportive of the fighters and encourage them to get better. Of, hey, you know what, we can all work together and do this. Not everyone, wrestling's the answer. Let's fix the problems in MMA with wrestling. That's not the answer, and I'll prove it. I'll put $5,000 for a single matchup with Ari Taub that I will knock him out in the first round or submit him, and he won't even take me down. But he, you know, again, does he do MMA? He doesn't do MMA. So what's he want, a wrestling match? Well, we're not talking about wrestling. He's talking about wrestling for MMA. I'm talking about MMA.
That's pretty potent stuff, man.
Oh, it is what it is.
Thank you. I can feel your emotion and your intensity about it, man, and you're very passionate. I appreciate it very much because as a fighter, as a fan, being on this side of the interview card now, and I see things happening, and you know, there's a lot of things that happen that we have to agree to disagree on, and sometimes we can never really come to a clear-cut conclusion. But moving forward, I would like to touch a little bit on if you're going to be looking towards maybe trying to do a show in Ontario now that the doors have been open there, and what is your thoughts on maybe expanding your brand now that you put on almost 45 successful shows now?
I've got no interest in going there.
None?
There's so many fighters out here that need experience and want experience. Everybody in this country is a feeder to the UFC, whether they like it or not, right? Including MFC, including anyone who says they're a big deal. They're not a big deal. They're only a feeder. My job is to provide opportunity for guys to fight and compete. If I can do that in Lethbridge, I can do it in Calgary and keep it local. So the logistic nightmares, I'm busy. I'm gone every weekend. I don't have time to fly to Ontario and check out a venue. I'm not interested in it. Good for those guys who do, and hats off to you. And if you make a lot of money, good for you. Have our guys fight. They'll put on a great show.
That's great, man. I appreciate it very much. And I can understand where you're coming from and the compassion for having the developmental foundation here for the farm fighters and for the amateurs and the pros and developing the fighters here in Alberta. I can really respect that, and so we're not going to be seeing you outside of Alberta anytime soon. Bottom line?
Maybe fighting and coaching.
Right on, man.
Promoting.
Cool. With your upcoming card, can you give us a venue and a date? I know there's been a couple things thrown around. Have you come to anything concrete for your next event?
Yeah, we're doing it Friday, June 3rd. Friday, June 3rd at the South Pavilion, where we usually do our shows in Lethbridge. Great venue, 1,500, 2,000 people. Great rocking crowds all the time. Who's fighting yet? We don't know. It's always going to be a great time. So. Okay,
man. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. That's going to be Rumble in the Cage 43, June 3rd in Lethbridge, Alberta. I'm here with a very pumped up Lee Main, very, very educated, somebody that I looked up to in the sport for a long time and I hold in high regard. I just want to say thank you, man. It's been an honor. It's been a very, very good interview with you, and hopefully I'll be able to catch up with you in Ontario and maybe do a pre and post fight interview with Jordan before the fight.
That'd be awesome.
I
Anytime.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
All the best tonight.
You bet.
Take care.